I routinely get asked if I'm pro or against treating anxiety in dogs with medication. It's not a black and white topic. There's a fair bit of grey in it. Two things that I want to address today. So firstly, the main point is that there absolutely is a time and place to use medication to treat dogs with anxiety, but not without exploring other options first. There should be a significant behavioural modification plan put in place and a complete overhaul of the dog's daily routine. So we see a lot of drivey dogs in society, highly prey-driven dogs in society these days. A lot of these highly driven breeds are still being developed like the traditional model of developing a pet dog, the thing that your parents might say to you. You get a dog, you need to walk it every day. Those dogs are taken for a 1 hour walk every day. Now we know with these types of dogs, you can walk that dog and they come back and they look at you like, thanks for the warm up, now what? What happens next? When do we get to do the actual thing? That dog might have enrichment toys and activities that it can do in the yard. But once again, the itch is not being scratched. These highly prey-driven dogs need an activity, something that is actually going to create a high level of fulfillment. Now, the problem is if you've got a driven dog, a highly driven dog, and it's not scratching that itch, it doesn't have the ability to do a sport or an activity where it feels a level of contentment and it gets to express itself, well, that dog can start displaying anxious type tendencies. My German Shepherd, for example, she needs an outlet for her prey. She typically doesn't get that every day, but at least 5 days a week, we do an intense task where she gets to express that. That task can take sometimes only 7 or 8 minutes, but her ability to express it in that fashion gives her that feeling of contentment. So the problem with dealing with dogs with very, very high prey drive, if they don't get to scratch that itch and get that feeling of contentment, they don't know what to do with themselves. They have this feeling of discontent, and that starts to express itself in the form of anxiety. So it would be very easy to run a traditional generic pet model with a dog like a working line shepherd or a kelpie, lots of these dogs that are not getting an outlet, but we walk the dog for an hour a day. We give the dog enrichment. So we do generic pet dog types of activities with these dogs. And please understand as well that the things that I'm talking about in terms of prey outlet, that should be something that's factored into every dog's routine across the week, not just highly driven dogs. All dogs have this within them. But for those dogs that have very, very high levels of this, if they don't get to scratch that itch, well, then they're going to feel discontent and it's going to create issues. They're going to start feeling uneasy and unwell, and that prey is going to start to express itself in different ways. The dog might start pacing, running a track in the backyard, start obsessively focusing on birds, other dogs. There's no end of ways in which this behavior can start to leak out, or just general anxiety symptoms. Now, if we look at that dog and don't address some of these factors first, take the dog to a vet for a consult, and there isn't a significant behavioral mod plan that includes drive fulfillment in that process, we can end up in a situation where that dog is now medicated. This is the part that I have a deep level of concern for, is seeing a working line dog come into the business, or it might be a staffy. That dog is already on meds before we've seen that dog, and we have a discussion around what has been done in terms of the behavioural modification and changing that dog's daily routine. Nothing has been done except for those more generic type activities. Now, to be extremely respectful to the people out there who are treating some of these dogs, a lot of people don't know. They don't have this information unless you're involved in certain sectors of the pet dog community. If you haven't stepped into the sports dog world in some capacity, well, you might not have an understanding of these things. If you're not involved in the working dog community in some regards, well, you don't have a thorough understanding of exactly what those dogs are being bred for, the traits that have been bred into those dogs, and what those dogs need to feel that level of fulfillment and contentment. So are we pro or against meds? As you can see, it's not a straightforward answer. Our expectation would be that we get a chance to do a thorough behaviour mod and an overhaul of that dog's daily routine and program first before looking at that as an option. But there are absolutely cases where the first option may need to be medication first before we can start that behavioural modification plan.